Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinatha, Radha Gopinatha, Shri Radha. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Sham Vishnupat Param Sivarajkacharya Shtattar Shattas Divine Grace Abhaicharan Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Charya PBD Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Sham Vishnupat Param Sivarajkacharya Shtattar Shattas Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakote Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Krantarat Shimapakatam Ki Jai Nitya Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading Canto 3, Chapter 9, Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. Text 2. Rupam yadita tavabodha rasodayena. Rupam yadita tavabodha rasodayena. Shashvan nivritta tamasa sadanugrahaya. Shashvan nivritta tamasa sadanugrahaya. Audau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Audau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Yanna bipatma bhavana dhammam avirasam. Yanna bipatma bhavana dhammam avirasam. Rupam yadeta davabodha rasodayena. Shashvan nivritta tamasa sadanugrahaya. Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Yanna bipatma bhavana daham avirasam. Rupam yadeta davabodha rasodayena. Shashvan nivritta tamasa sadanugrahaya. Adau grihitam avatara shataika bijam. Yanna bipatma bhavana daham avirasam. Rupam, form, yat, which, etat, that, avabodha rasa, of your internal potency, udayena, with the manifestation, shashvat, forever, nivritta, freed from, tamasaha, material contamination, sat anugrahaya, for the sake of the devotees, ada, original in the creative energy of matter, grihitam, accepted, avatara, of incarnations, shata ekabijam, the root cause of hundreds, yat, that which, nabi padma, the navel lotus flower, bhavanat, from the home, aham, myself, avirasam, generated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhaya and the Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The form which I see is eternally freed from material contamination and has advented to show mercy to the devotees as a manifestation of internal potency. This incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations and I am born from the lotus flower grown from your navel home. Purport. The three deities, Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, Shiva, the executive heads of the three modes of material nature, passion, goodness and ignorance, are all generated from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, who is described herein by Brahma. From the Kshirotakashaya Vishnu, many Vishnu incarnations expand at different ages in the duration of the cosmic manifestation. They are expanded only for the transcendental happiness of the pure devotees. The incarnations of Vishnu who appear at different ages and times are never to be compared to the conditioned souls. The Vishnu Tattvas are not to be compared to deities like Brahma and Shiva, nor are they on the same level. Anyone who compares them is called a Pashandi or infidel. Tamasaha mentioned herein is the material nature, and the spiritual nature has a completely separate existence from Tamaha. Therefore, spiritual nature is called Avabodha Rasa or Avarodha Rasa. Avarodha means that which completely nullifies. In the transcendence, there is no chance of material contact by any means. Brahma is the first living being, and therefore he mentions his birth from the lotus flower generated from the abdomen of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Om Jnanatimrandasya Kanamchana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadate Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parikalamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrachatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamshta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vrishabhana Sate Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Ancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubha Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning, or listening. So, we just started yesterday, chapter 9 now, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. So, and I was thinking yesterday when we started this chapter, that it's so beautiful in Srimad Bhagavatam also that, like, not only we know to real speech is only if you speak according to the Vedas, according to the knowledge directly given by the Supreme Lord through parampara. Otherwise, we cheat others if we pose ourselves to have knowledge, like Prabhupada. So many times he condemns the so-called philosophers, scientists, and everyone who pose themselves as intelligent but speak according to the mental concoctions, which have no real value, because it always has to be imperfect, because we know conditioned souls have the 4 defects. So to really speak something proper, it has to be according, at least, I mean, of course, on small daily dealings, we might have some, called chada jnana, or like knowledge of matter itself, of just for material life. Yes, it sometimes for practical purposes it's needed, and it's okay if we see it ultimately in relation to Krishna. But to speak of ultimate knowledge, apparently, and not speak according to Vedas, that's cheating. But so Srimad Bhagavatam not only gives this knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord and the realized devotees who repeat his message, but in many times in those prayers, like we see here, we can directly witness how Lord Brahma here, he's not only repeating what he heard from the Lord, but he's directly speaking according to his realization, like we saw in the previous chapter, how amazingly he saw the Lord's beautiful darshan. And so now, after that, now we hear, based on that, on his experience, and of course, and on the what the Lord makes him speak, how he gives him the realization. Of course, proper realization. It's not our endeavor; it's the Lord's mercy bestowed upon us. But yeah, it's beautiful how we can directly witness or experience here how those great devotees like Lord Brahma, or head of our sampradaya, is, how he saw the beautiful darshan, and now how he, after that, is offering his prayers to the Supreme Lord directly. And like one thing that struck me even at the end of the last chapter in his darshan was also how first of all, of course, it shows amazingly how, obviously, there's absolute truth as those three features, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, Vadanti Tattvavyas, Tattvam Yanam Advayam, Brahmati, Paramatmiti, Bhagavan Niti Shaptati. And of which the Bhagavan feature, the personal feature of the Lord, is supreme. And that we see, of course, so many times so beautifully in Bhagavatam, like here, how Lord Brahma directly saw Garbhata Kashaya Vishnu. But he not only saw the Supreme Lord, but he also, Shukadeva Goswami described how it could be seen that not only is the Lord a person, but even, as we know, even his paraphernalia, like it was a beautiful description Kamsarjana Prabhu mentioned, for example, how the flower garlands were offering beautiful prayers and singing hymns in glorification of the Supreme Lord. So, like we perhaps are not able to see that when we take darshan here, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. They have amazingly beautiful garlands made so nicely by the devotees, but we perhaps are not able to witness how the garlands, they are also personalities. All the personality in the spiritual world, they're spiritual, which means they're fully conscious, which means they're a person. And so also, even more amazing or funny, I found when I read it myself also a while ago, that also Sudarshan Chakra is how the description Shukadeva Goswami gave there was that, actually, who is Maitreya Rishi speaking here still, or is it Shukadeva Goswami? Must be Maitreya Rishi, right? That Sudarshan Chakra, that he was there protecting the Lord. And I find that really funny, because generally we think of Sudarshan Chakra as the Lord's wheels, one of his four main paraphernalia he's holding in his four arms as Lord Narayan, of which we say lotus flower is something beautiful, which he holds for the devotees' pleasure, as well as the shankha, the conch shell, blowing auspicious sounds for them, whereas the club and the chakra, the Sudarshan, those two are weapons which he uses to get rid of miscreants, killing demons. So that's how we generally think of Sudarshan Chakra. It's what the Lord wields to kill demons. But here we hear how Sudarshan is also personality, and which personality means everyone in the spiritual world knows himself as in his constitutional position as an eternal servant of the Lord. So his mood is completely absorbed in how can I serve the Lord. And we hear here that even though the Lord is obviously the protector of everyone, but his service mood is there, even though, because I find it quite amazing, because we know generally that in Vaikuntha, as Lord Narayan, everyone knows him as the Supreme Lord, as the Supreme Master, and knows, which means the mood is, I'm completely dependent on you. Please protect me, and in whatever tiny service I can do, kindly engage me. Not like in Vrindavan, where we know that, like Mother Yashoda has in Vatsalya Ras, for example, thinks that Krishna is fully dependent on her protection and everything, maintenance, and also the gopis, of course, that they think that Krishna cannot be happy without them. And so where the Lord, takes the greatest pleasure in putting himself into a position of depending on the devotees. But we don't find that actually in Vaikuntha. But still amazingly here we hear that Sudarshan Chakra still from his side as a servant takes it as his service to protect the Lord. So even though knowing him as the actual protector and the master, but as a service still, okay, at least I guess whatever a little I can do, I try to protect the Lord from any unnecessary disturbances and like that. So yeah, I found that quite amazing. And so as part of the darshan that Lord Brahma had taken there. And so then yesterday Lord Brahma started his prayers, where Paribhushan Prabhu was explaining how first Lord Brahma actually admits how he got to this mercy of the Lord, which namely through his penance, as we discussed, which was also extraordinary, which was for 100 of his years, so a complete lifetime, which is like 311 trillion years and 40 billion years or something like that. And but I was thinking also when we hear like that Lord Brahma beginning his prayers like that, it could almost seem as kind of arrogant, as like showing off, oh, just see, I did so much penance, and because of that now by my power I was able to see you and get your mercy. But obviously, that's not his mood. Rather, why did he do the penance in the first place? By the Lord's instruction, and he knew that's the Lord's will, that in his case it was to perform those penances. Whereas, like as Prabhu mentioned yesterday, for us obviously it's not anything like that, but it's simply strictly following the orders of the spiritual master and trying our everything to please our spiritual master, to please Srila Prabhupada in whatever simple instructions they gave, like following the 4 regs, following all the chanting and all the different processes in Bhakti Yoga, and especially we can please them, as we know, through Sankirtan, through book distribution, Harinam. And so that was the first thing Lord Brahma had pointed out, as well as then he expressed how his compassion he feels upon all those who don't have this mercy yet. Because as we'll hear that a little bit later in his prayers, there's one verse also which struck me when I remember reading that, how he expresses thinking of all the different material tribulations that the living entities have to go through, feeling great compassion in the way. Because imagine Lord Brahma, we know he's a pure devotee, he's the head of our sampradaya, but his service is there to create, as we know, not only all the material bodies and planetary systems, but at first, and we discussed that also a few times, that he also has to create those 4 layers of ignorance to even enable all of them material life. And so all of that, he perfectly knows all the trouble that all the souls will have to go through, and he's the one who has to set it up, all of that. So imagine, but he's a pure devotee, which means he feels great compassion for every single living entity. So yeah, it's quite an extraordinary position and devotional service that Lord Brahma has. And so that's why he expresses that also right from the start here, how he knows it's the will of the Lord, because those living entities, they have to go through that, because we know we all have our free will, and we have to. The Lord will never force us to love Him, so we have to. The Lord provides so much opportunity for us to turn back to Him, sending His devotees and coming Himself, and we know all of that. But at the end of the day, still it's everyone's free will. So that's why Lord Brahma is lamenting like that also. And then he concludes in the first verse here how there's nothing beyond Him, and that anything else is illusion, as we similar as in the third verse of the Chatushlok, which we heard in the second canto. And so in today's verse, I'll read again the translation. Lord Brahma is praying, "The form which I see is eternally freed from material contamination. and has advented to show mercy to the devotees as a manifestation of internal potency. This incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations, and I am born from the lotus flower grown from your navel home. So, yeah, like quite many times we see that in prayers that devotees offer to the Supreme Lord, that first they make it completely clear that for the benefit of all of us, and I guess also for themselves, preaching to themselves when taking darshan, to really have no doubts in what they're seeing at that moment, that they are not seeing anything material, because all of us born in a material world, that's what we have material vision, we think whatever we see is material, but the Supreme Lord obviously has nothing to do with that. We know material energy is one of his innumerable energies only, and which is inferior to the spiritual energy. So how can he be material? And then the second point Lord Brahma made here is that first, is eternally freed from material contamination and has advented to show mercy to the devotees as a manifestation of internal potency. So in other words, he's immediately thanking the Lord also that even though I'm used to see matter, but by your causeless mercy you have come here by your internal potency in your spiritual form, and you have, having been pleased, as we know from following your order, doing the devotional service of his penances, that now directly in your eternal spiritual form you're showing yourself to me. And we find that also in many other prayers, of course, and I have discussed that a bit previously, but find it very beautifully. For example, the prachetas, when they get to see the Lord, they also have undergone severe penances for, I think it's mentioned, 10,000 years, but on earth, so much less compared to Lord Brahma, of course, but still extraordinary. So when they got to see the Lord, who came to them in his 8-handed form, then they also thank the Lord and make a similar point, that it's the Lord's causeless mercy to come in this form, and to come in this form is specifically, I'll just read that verse again. It's actually I think quite famous verse also, at least I remember like Guru Maharaj speaking on that, because there's one line also which is quite amazing. I'll just read it. So that's fourth canto, chapter 30, the activities of the Prachetas text, 27. So I'll read the translation. Dear Lord, we conditioned souls are always covered by ignorance in the bodily conception of life. We therefore always prefer the miserable conditions of material existence. So this, I remember much speaking on this line quite extensively, because they express that because we are always in the bodily concept, this, as a consequence, this means that we therefore always prefer the miserable conditions of material existence. Which, this sentence alone, if you hear or read, it seems like, how can it be? I mean, no one, everyone is pleasure-seeking. That's why everyone tries to be happy, and so no one looks for misery. But actually, this explains that's what it actually means. As soon as you engage in simply in sense gratification and being absorbed in the bodily concept of life, then the consequence of that is that there is material miseries. Anyway, so that's one nice point, but I want to come to something else here. So they continue that, saying, to deliver us from these miserable conditions, you have advented yourself in this transcendental form. This is evidence of your unlimited causeless mercy upon those of us who are suffering in this way. What then to speak of the devotees to whom you are always so favorably disposed? So, and Prabhupada is in the purport nicely explaining here about the point of how that this form in which the Lord shows himself is, he does specifically for the benefit of everyone, and not only, because the point they make is not only for the devotees, but actually for everyone. The Lord is, he always makes himself fully accessible, but only the devotees generally are those who take advantage of it. But he is open for anyone to come, and anyone can at any time turn to him. So Prabhupada is nicely explaining that. So he's saying here that it is clearly stated in this verse that this form, Ashesha Klesha Sankshayam, is meant to diminish all the miserable conditions experienced in life, not only by the devotees, but by all others. So, yeah, and we know it's also even those who might not be able to take full advantage of the Lord's mercy, but even whatever tiny benefit they get is eternal. Like, for example, if someone comes here, for example, and has no idea whatever about the philosophy, but sees Sri Sri Radha Gopinath and appreciates their beauty. Oh wow, who is that who looks so beautiful, and go away and never come back. Then still they get eternal benefit. Sri Sri Radha Gopinath will be pleased. Oh wow, this soul has appreciated us. Or if someone we meet out on the street and they just give some little appreciation or a small donation or whatever, and yeah, they will get, or they just hold the book, like we know, then they can get human form again in the next life. So yeah, the Lord is so eager to give mercy actually to everyone, as we hear here. And then I'll skip to another part where the Prabhupada is saying, the form of the Lord as worshipped in the temples is called Archa Vigraha or Archa Avatar, the worshipable form, the deity incarnation. This facility is offered to neophyte devotees. So yeah, because now Prabhupada is going to the point that it's not only back then when the Lord came, showing himself to the Prachetas, but also obviously his form as his deity, his Archa Vigraha, Archa Avatar, is also especially to simply give mercy to everyone. And so Prabhupada is explaining that here. This facility is offered to neophyte devotees so that they can see the real form of the Lord face to face and offer their respectful obeisances and sacrifices in the form of Archa. Through such facilities, the neophytes gradually invoke their original Krishna consciousness. Deity worship in the form of temple worship is the most valuable benediction given by the Lord to beginners. So, yeah, it's quite amazing how, we can't conceive even of this one aspect of the Lord showing us, giving us His mercy, of His deity. Even though we know we're in Kali Yuga, otherwise is the most important form in which He gives Himself to us, of which we have to take advantage of, is the holy name. But there's also so many other ways through, as we know, Srimad Bhagavatam is Purana ko Dunoditaha, is how the sun has arisen as Srimad Bhagavatam in this darkness of Kali Yuga. And yeah, in so many ways how the Lord gives mercy. And so one way is as the deity incarnation, where Prabhupada explains here that, yeah, it is, like we know, even though it is the Lord chooses to appear externally in material elements, like He engages someone to carve a form according to the directions of the Shastra, and then there's a specific process how the devotees, forgot the name, the process that they have to perform, then upon which the Lord then agrees to appear as that form, but as soon as it does that, then it is not material, then it is the Supreme Lord Himself directly. And so that's what Prabhupada is saying here. This facility is offered to the neophyte devotees so that they can see the real form of the Lord face to face. So it's non-different from if the Lord from the spiritual world would descend in front of our eyes. It's the same as it does as Sri Sri Radha Gopinath are right there on the altar. It's just, of course, according to our realization, how we can perceive that. But here, Prabhupada is saying then we have to, it's the facility to give to us that we can offer respectful obeisances and sacrifices, and in that way can gradually get purified, invoke our original Krishna consciousness. And then this beautiful sentence where Prabhupada says, because keeping in mind that we know Yoga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan, but still Prabhupada is saying, and so many times obviously he stressed the importance of that so much, but still Prabhupada is saying here, deity worship in the form of temple worship is the most valuable benediction given by the Lord to beginners. So, and all of us are beginners, at least myself, to some way or other, and so just chanting Hare Krishna alone, we won't have the sincerity and purity to do that alone to be enough to fully purify us. We have to take advantage, as Prabhupada says, specifically for the beginners, for the neophytes. The Lord is merciful to reveal Himself as the deity. And so that was from the similar here from the Prachetas, how they appreciate the Lord's mercy as revealing Himself in this form visible to us. And similarly, in the beginning of 5th canto, when King Nabi is performing a great sacrifice for the sake of getting a son just as good as the Supreme Lord Himself, and the priests there, and Lord Vishnu Himself comes down, and the priests, when they offer their prayers, they are actually quite embarrassed, because even though they were previously more on the karma kanda side, more with fruitive mentality, doing all the puja and whatever brahminical activities they did, but upon directly seeing the Lord, they got the Lord's mercy also to realize that, actually, what are we doing? The ultimate is simply to serve the Lord, to please the Lord, and here we are performing a sacrifice for the sake of getting a good son for King Nabi. So they felt ashamed, actually, for calling the Lord just for that. And in one verse they also point out this amazing mercy of the Lord to show Himself to us. So that's just part of the verse of 5th canto, 3rd chapter, text 9, saying, "You have come out of your abundant and causeless mercy in order to serve our purpose, our interest. And you have come although you not properly worshipped due to our ignorance." So, and Prabhupada is saying there that Lord Vishnu was personally present at the sacrificial arena, but this does not mean that He had any interest in His own personal benefit. Because, we know the Lord is eternally enjoying unlimited pleasure in the spiritual world, so He has no business for coming to the material world from His side. His only business is to show mercy to those who are entrapped here in the illusory energy, to help them to come back to Him and also participate in His unlimited pleasure. And so He only comes for our benefit. And Prabhupada here also makes the point then that similarly the Archa Vigraha is present for the same purpose. Out of His causeless mercy, the Supreme Personality of Godhead presents Himself before us so that we can see Him. And he explains further then that because, as we said, Archa Vigraha, he is also not material, which he is also spiritual, Satchidananda Vigraha. So, but generally we are not able to see that. But in Archa Vigraha, he is so merciful, it does present Himself so that we can, I like that how Prabhupada explains that here, that out of His causeless mercy, the Supreme Personality of Godhead presents Himself before us so that we can see Him. So, amazing how Prabhupada uses the language of, explaining those otherwise very topics which are very difficult to understand, that the Lord is fully spiritual and we don't have the spiritual vision, and then He comes as the deity form, which is originally coming from material elements, but then then it is spiritual. But like even just a sentence like this, that he presents himself before us so that we can see him. So he is spiritual, but then he presents in a way that we can, even with our material eyes, we can see him. Yeah. So, okay, I'll just quickly show what else Prabhupada said in today's purport. So yeah, Lord Brahma further pointed out that this incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations. And Prabhupada explained that because we know generally the Lord incarnates from Kshirotakashaya Vishnu, and Lord Brahma is praying here to Garbotakashaya Vishnu, which is the origin of Kshirotakashaya Vishnu. But we know, of course, Kshirotakashaya Vishnu is actually the, out of all the expansions, the further expanded form of the Lord, like this. But still, the Lord incarnates through him generally, which like kind of like a portal. Even though, like for example, Krishna himself, obviously, he's the origin of all other incarnations. So Kshirotakashaya Vishnu is ultimately an expansion from him, obviously. But yeah, the Lord can appear the way he likes, and Prabhupada discussed about then the three predominating deities of the three modes of nature, and of which Lord Brahma obviously is one, we know, for the mode of passion. And yeah, basically just how material nature is ignorance and spiritual nature is full knowledge. And yeah, I find it quite funny also the word used here for how the Brahma also, he concludes the verse actually in that now he is understanding, like we saw in the previous chapter before starting his penances, that he was bewildered and that he was speculating of what is all around me, where do I come from? So he didn't know that he was born from the lotus, which comes from the navel from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. But here now he does know, obviously, and he's also acknowledging that to the Lord, that, and I'm born from the lotus flower grown from your navel home. I don't know what exactly means home. Like in the word-to-word, Prabhupada also used that bhavanat, from the home. So, yeah, our ultimate home is to be with the Lord. I guess Lord Brahma is also pointing that out here. And yeah, so yeah, those prayers, they're also really beautiful always to see, because they not only give knowledge, but they reveal also the intimate dealings of the Lord and His devotees, of how He gives them realization and appreciation of Him, and how they express their love and gratitude to the Lord. So yeah, it's also always very beautiful. So yeah, I'll conclude here. If there's any question or comment, yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Well, first of all, it means free from ignorance, so free from the illusion of thinking himself anything other than eternal spirit, soul, eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. So that's the most important aspect. And yeah, obviously know the Jivas, they are not omniscient like the Lord are, but their full knowledge is, we know we're equal in quality, but different in quantity. We are minute in quantity. So, we always depend on the Lord to reveal to us as much knowledge as is needed, as is beneficial for. Like we know that most important thing in the spiritual world and therefore in all existence is love, is the exchange of love between the Lord and the devotees. Everything else is secondary. So knowledge is also always it's inferior to prema, so it's only if it aids, if it helps to engage in loving service, to increase the love, then it will be there, and if it's inhibition, then it will be covered, like we see in. So if the topmost devotees in Vrindavan, where they don't want to think of Krishna as the Supreme Lord, generally, they just want to see him as a coward boy. So even though they are, of course, Satchitananda Vigraha. So yeah, that's my understanding. Okay, thank you. Krantarachima Bhaktam Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki.